Welcome, everyone, to the From the Shadows podcast. I'm your host, Shane Grove, and with me, as always, is the super producer, Jason.
Greetings, everyone.
So, Jason, before we get into this episode, there's a couple things I want to throw out there. I'm going to shamelessly plug a project that I am a part of, and hopefully all the podcast fans, at least the ones that like us, because we know now that there's ones that don't like us, that follow us that don't like us. So, but the ones that do like us, maybe they will go check out the when this episode comes out. I think it's going to be about a week before the Eddie Montgomery album. And for those who don't know, Eddie Montgomery is one half of the former country duo Montgomery Gentry, huge country act. In the last 10, 15 years. It's his first solo album since Troy Gentry tragically died in a helicopter accident. And as followers of the show may or may not know that I do some songwriting, and I am lucky. And when I say lucky, Jason, the other writers on this album are Grammy winners, have number ones. I mean, it's a who's who of writers.
Sounds like you're in good company here.
Listen, I don't even know how I managed to get on this, okay? But I'm a co-writer on a song that Eddie and Tanya Tucker are doing a duet on.
Nice.
And it's called Higher. And I'm just going to shamelessly ask all the From the Shadows fans to go pre-save it on Spotify, iTunes, whatever. I think it comes out October 1st. It's going to be called, I think the album's Alive and Well. And just go check out all the songs and especially download Higher, the one I was a co-writer on. It would be awesome. It's kind of a dream come true.
Check it out and come to the From the Shadows podcast page and leave a comment about it, whether you liked it or you didn't.
Oh, don't say that. I hope everybody likes it.
I want to hear everybody's opinion. Or come to the After the Shadows group page and just give a mention about it.
Yeah, I sincerely hope everybody likes it. I mean, if you're not a country music fan, I understand. But if you are, I think you're really going to dig it. And I just, we appreciate all the support we get for the podcast. And I have a lot of support in some of the other stuff that, that we do on the side. So it means a lot to all of us involved. And it's kind of cool to be able to share it with the people that we talk to every week.
Nice.
Nice. So thank you for letting me shamelessly plug that, Jason, and not hitting the mute button. So with that being said, we have a super cool guest. For our loyal listeners, you'll know that a couple weeks ago we had on Sarah Bignell from Yowie Central on the show. Mm-hmm. And she told a little bit of a story from an eyewitness over in Australia. And we just thought it was an amazing story. Well, Sarah got a hold of me and said the young lady that had the experience would like to come on and really go into detail about what happened. So, Sharon, all the way from Australia, thanks for joining us on the From the Shadows podcast. We're happy to have you.
Thank you, Sharon.
Hi.
Come on.
Hi, Shane. Hi, Jason.
Hello. How are you doing, Sharon?
I'm going well.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
I like the young girl reference, by the way.
Hey, listen. We already told you. There's Australia ladies have a soft place in the heart of our super producer. Okay,
that's right.
So, and let's be honest. I think everybody has a soft spot for a lady with an accent. So,
indeed.
Isn't it?
So Sharon, why don't you tell our listeners about your experience and just let's get into it. Tell us where you were and what time and what was happening and everything.
Oh, sure. I'd love to. Okay. Well, this was in 2008, this experience. So probably about near 13 years ago. Yeah. So I was camping in a southeast location in central northern New South Wales, and camping with a group of friends, and decided that evening wasn't going so well. And unfortunately, it was the turn of New Year's. So it had just turned New Year's and things weren't going good, decided to leave. So not such a great decision sometimes in remote locations to do things like that, but at the time it seemed like the best decision. So I decided to leave and packed up and hit the road from Nambucca Heads. And Nambucca Heads, I was heading towards travelling out to Coffs Harbour to fuel up my vehicle because I didn't have much fuel in my vehicle, probably about a quarter of a tank. And I was driving a RAV4. I think you guys have got them over there, I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we got them.
Sure. So pretty good little four-wheel drive, reliable vehicle, but didn't have a lot of fuel in it. And they have a reserve of 15 Ks behind, your tank. So all good. I thought it's only 50 Ks out. I'm going to do it. So I packed up, left. And let me tell you that I looked up the moon phase of that night before I go into the story, and the moon phase was in what they call the last quarter. And not that that represents anything, but the last quarter is said to say that it represents a transition phase or a metamorphosis of discovery. Not to say that that happens on every moon change in people's lives, right? So anyway, pondering on, sort of took off, and what sort of happened? Well, I was really running the gauntlet, so I was about 30 K in to the trip, and I approached what they call the Blondel State Forest, National State Forest, which is probably about 10, 15, 13 K out of Bonneville. Not to say that you go into Bonneville because it sidetracks the highway out through past Bonneville. Anyway, so I was entering a highway which had been newly refurbished. So they put this new double-lane highway through on both sides. So there was 4 lanes, 2 northbound, 2 southbound. And the highway had been quite heavily cleared, so you could see through a mature pine forest. And they actually call that forest Pine Creek Forest, noting, okay? So it would have been a mature forest, 15 years old, but it had been stripped down again, cleared for all sorts of reasons. It would have been cleared for rural fire. It would have been cleared for the new highway, all sorts of reasons. So you could see that cartoon effect through pine trees as you were travelling along. Like you could see if there was something between those trees, right? Quite clearly. Anyway, I was northbound headed. This would have been about 1:30 at this stage. I was travelling with my Maltese dog, and she was sitting on the passenger's side on the seat, quite happy, partially blind, mind you. So she was about a 12-year-old dog at that stage. She started whimpering, and it was a little elusive to me as to why. I thought maybe she wanted to have a rest stop, that sort of thing, and I thought there's no chance, kiddo, we're stopping here. So we're driving on. But anyway, in my peripheral vision, as she's getting a bit uptight, I'm noticing something in my left-hand side in the distance in the forest. Going back to the cartoon effect, you can see if there's something through a forest, right, when you're travelling at a speed. So I would have been doing about 95, nearly 100 K, and she was 110 through there. And anyway, so I was like, what is it, kangaroo? Is it a cow? Wow, it's travelling fast. I'm looking at my speedo, associating my speed with the speed of whatever that is in the distance. It's coming closer. I'm thinking to myself, wow, it's coming through the forest. I'm like, wow, okay. So suddenly I'm starting to hear and smell more. So my windows are partially down at the time, and this putrid smell, oh my God, like someone had opened up a rotted animal carcass, the gas of the stomach or something like that. It was just putrid, pneumonic, horrid. The dog shot from the passenger seat to the floor and started yelping and howling and digging at the floor. And she saved me a couple of times from intruders. So I don't tend to ignore her when something's wrong. So I was like, okay, I know there's something going on. There's something out there, Winnie. I can see, I'm talking to the dog. I can see we're not stopping, sweetie. We're moving. So I'm kicking in the speed at this stage, and this thing is still there in my distance. It would have been with me for easy 5-10K through that forest, and it was just coming closer and closer. And I was hearing the forest crack like branches. And as it was approaching, the highway was segmenting into a tiny triangle. So at one stage, that forest would end where it's travelling and we were going to intersect. And I was like, okay, I'm going to die if I meet this thing. Whatever this thing is, I don't know what I'm going to do. So I'm running through scenarios. It's amazing how it feels like time stood still. It felt like it was with me for easy 5 minutes. But I was trying to make a plan of escape and there was no way out. I was finding every way. I was thinking of everything. It was just horrible. I was thinking, okay, what am I going to do when I meet it? It's going to cross in front of me. What is this thing? Anyway, eventually we come up to the point, we meet each other. It's beside my vehicle on the passenger side, and all I can see is this giant red creature with hair flowing everywhere, and I see the top of its head is all I'm seeing from the vehicle moving because we're travelling. I'm doing 100 clicks at this stage, and as soon as it hits the side where I have full vision of it in my rear vision mirror of it being just behind the passenger side door, I'm rearing to the right of the lane. There's no one around. My lanes are free. So I've gone to the right lane and I've nearly rolled my vehicle in terror of what the hell is this thing, and had to really just stay focused thinking if I roll, I'm definitely in Death City. So anyway, seemed to stabilise the vehicle, felt the vehicle actually leave the side of the road, because I was going to skid, I was going to do something, I don't know. But there was no chance that I could get away because it had this giant mound in the middle of the highway and you couldn't cross across to turn around, do a Yowie, get out or anything. There was no approach to crossing or getting over that middle island either to get away. So anyway, this thing was still galloping along or running along on 4 legs at this stage like a silverback gorilla, like something out of Planet of the Apes would be probably the best description. Certainly didn't wear a cap like Dr. Zayas, but anyway.
or a sweet leather vest.
No, he didn't have any armour on or anything, but he certainly had red hair and red eyes, and he was very much a part of the Planet of the Apes company. But anyway, this thing picked speed up and went in front of my vehicle, and it seemed to transition. Now, this is the weirdest part because when I was first interviewed with Tony Healy with AYR, Tony Healy talked to me also about how these things can almost metamorphose. How can you run at a speed of 90-something K, nearly 100K this thing was keeping up, and it transitions to 2 legs? It goes up and stands and keeps more speed about it. And at this stage, it gets in front of the vehicle on bipedally. It's in 2, and I've got full vision of it now. And I'm like, holy crap, leaning over the front of my wheel, looking up at this thing, and it turns its head and gives me a full face. And its face was definitely Neanderthal. It was absolutely beautiful in so many ways. It was almost like this moment of, oh, here I am, Mm-hmm. And it didn't growl, it didn't snarl, it didn't raise its arms to me and growl or howl. It looked at me as if to say, that was great fun, thanks very much, see ya, and jumped over the centre area that I couldn't cross in my vehicle in one giant leap, got to the side of the highway and took one more leap and got over double lanes, and off into the bush it went. So meanwhile, I've nearly exhausted my fuel at that point because I was hammering. And the last thing I wanted to do was run out of fuel and be stuck in the Blondel forest. So after that, I just thought, I am going to have to stop and recuperate. And I did. I managed to make it onto, I still didn't stop for the poor dog, and she was still howling the whole way. She would not stop the whole way. I still had another 15 Ks. Do you know how hard it is to drive when every part of your body feels frozen? Like the blood just sunk out of my body. It was just, how will anyone believe me, I thought to myself. But it took 9 years before I exposed that story. And I went to the Coffs Harbour service station, and the guy at the service station says, "Oh, you look like you've seen a ghost." And I was like, "Look like I've seen a ghost? I think this is worse than seeing a ghost, mate." So,
yeah, I was going to say, I wish I had seen a ghost.
This was horrifying. And the thing was that it didn't want to hurt me. It seemed to be like a young adolescent male, because it had no chest. It didn't look female at all. It looked like it was in competition with me and it wanted to excel its power, and it was a race and a game, But I thought this thing was going to peel me out of the car when it was coming towards me, because it was cracking pine trees that I could not put my arms around. The pine trees were being cracked like they were toothpicks. It was just going boof, 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 boof. And you can imagine if you've got King Kong coming towards you, it's not a nice experience.
No, not at all.
So what, but you didn't know, like you said, you couldn't tell what exactly it was till it got right up beside the car,
yeah,
right?
It wasn't until it started coming in.
Okay. So you didn't, so as it's going through the woods, you still don't know exactly what it is. I mean,
I was just going, well, my daughter is a mammal scientist and she studied mammal philosophy. So she has a PhD, and she works for the Australian Zoo, the Australian Melbourne Zoo. And we share a lot of stories. And I've watched her over 10 years go to the most remotest places, and never once have she reported an incident like that throughout Australia. Mind you, she was in arid areas. So arid areas don't promote these creatures a lot. They like the subtropical zones, the coastal regions, the forest, the hiding zones, So she thinks I'm quite off the tree, and she's already reckoned she's booked me into the clinic,
So you have discussed this with her, and
she got the story the moment it happened. So she just told me, I don't know what sort of a New Year's Eve you had. And I just went, hey, this was the driest New Year's Eve in my whole life,
So I looked it up just so everybody, 100 kilometers an hour is about 62 miles per hour, I think.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Okay. So, wow, that is moving. But once again, Sharon, I mean, Jason and I have heard stories where these creatures, whether they're in Australia or in North America or wherever, can run like that.
Yeah, they can move at incredible speeds. They say you would never think something that size could move that fast.
Well, you know what? I think that we were just touching on what he could do. It was a game. It was a game. If that thing really wanted to get me, I'm sure he could come in double that speed. It absolutely gobsmacked me. I was like, how in the history of mankind have we missed this?
Well, I'll tell you why, because the thing can run 65 miles an hour and jump okay, so if there's creatures out there that can do the stuff that you just witnessed it doing, we would never, how would we ever stand a chance against something like that? Yeah. So if it doesn't want us to see it or deal with it, it's not going to let us.
There's many stories of these cloaking effects that these creatures can do over here. I mean, I don't hear it so much in the US because I follow it all over the world, and I've been following it ever since 2008. And, the cloaking effect seems to happen a lot in Australia, and they're very good at camouflage, you know. They've mastered it. Because that's their technique of hiding themselves.
Right.
Yeah, and we do hear a lot of stories about the cloaking. And but see what I think, okay, so what I like is that you're just like, look, sounds, because to you this has to even sound crazy that you saw it. And it has to even
with myself for 9 years over it before I told the story.
Okay, so think about how crazy it feels for you to tell that you witnessed something run up alongside your car and then just messing with you, jump over the median of the highway and take off. So imagine then, somebody over here or another part of the world saying, yeah, I saw it standing there, and then all of a sudden it just disappeared. Okay. I mean, that is crazy stuff to tell somebody if you're not comfortable in whatever may come from you telling that story. And so I can't imagine if you had never told this story, then there'd be no frame of reference for one doing that in Australia. Because have you heard of another creature doing the same thing in Australia?
Have I?
Yeah.
Many times.
Really?
Many times. Many times.
Oh, that's right. I think
Sarah. Stories and stories.
I think Sarah did tell us there was another story about one running beside the car. Didn't she, Jason?
Yes, there was another story.
Yes, she did. She says there was multiple sightings, multiple stories.
And AYR have got a story about some lads on motorbikes where they were chased by this thing in the bush, very, very much at the speeds that I was chased at. Mm-hmm. And they talk about the same with the cracking trees and just like bowling trees over like it was sport, and chasing and terrifying them, but not actually getting them. Look, they have the ability to rip you off that bike and tear you apart, but they don't. It's like a taunting, and it's like to me it feels like it's an animal protecting his environment, and him saying, this is my territory and I'm warning you off. So they show their abilities to you to terrify you, to keep you away, But unfortunately, it's becoming more and more populated, and more people are going out into the forests, and there's more technology, there's drones, there's all sorts of stuff now. Yeah. And, infrared cameras, AYR's onto it. So, we've already got exposure of them over here. And, my daughter just keeps saying, where's the scientific proof, And I just say, for God's sakes, there is scientific proof. There is. There's hair, there's footprints. There's one guy, I think in the States, even talks about a man who actually froze body parts of a Yeti. I don't know if you've ever heard that story, but that just blew me away.
Well, there's a lot of different reports about stuff like that, but a lot of people feel like they can't, if they do come across somehow obtain body parts. Yep. Over here, it's almost like they feel like they can't. You can't say anything, because then the government is going to come in and take whatever you have. If that's what you believe, that the government is part of covering up these creatures' existence, They
cover it up over here, and there's various reports, in the army, where army men have left the force, and they've come out, and later on they've told the story of how they had to use, they talked about a specific type of gas to get rid of them, because they taunted them that much, like a stink gas.
Yeah.
And flame flares and things like that they dropped around them to keep them back. But they don't tell you those stories. Yeah, it's just bizarre. And a film crew who were taunted by them. So there's all sorts of, you guys need to get on the Australian sites, and you need to read up on what's happening over here. It's crazy.
It sounds terrifying. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's not terrifying. It's exciting, guys. It means proof. It means it's happening.
Exactly.
You know? Yes,
exactly.
Yeah. Well, and I will say, and for everybody listening, Sharon shared with me some great drawings of what she remembers this being, this beast, this animal, whatever we want to call it, what it looked like. And, you know, we'll put it up on our Facebook pages, but it does look it looks quite a bit different than what the normal description of a Sasquatch or Bigfoot over here looks like. It sort of reminds me of the way people like Stacy Brown and those guys that investigate the skunk ape sightings.
Yeah,
is kind of what Sharon's experience. I mean, the creature kind of looks like. I mean, you know what I'm saying, Jason? Like it's big, but it's not as big and thick and is a Bigfoot or Sasquatch, and it's got this longer, stringier hair.
Yeah.
Than what
its hair was like a red setter. Do you guys get red setters over there?
Yeah, like an Irish setter.
Yeah,
like
and if you can imagine I remember just going, because I'm a bit of a fond lover of hair. I never cut my hair, and I looked at this creature, and I just remember thinking, geez, I wouldn't mind a few of his locks, you know, like I tell you. He had the longest, reddest, and it was so maintained, but so stinky, but maintained. It was bizarre how maintained he was. It was beautiful and long and flowing. It looked probably more flowing because he was running at such a speed, you know.
Right.
How bad would he have to stink for you to smell it going that fast?
And do you know that smell was in my car the next day?
Really?
Oh, I remember, and it just ignited it all over again in my head. It was just horrible. I just remember opening the car door after I'd got in that evening, because I drove straight through. I did not stop. I just stopped at fuels, and I had horrible experiences all the way. I had weird things because the New South Wales coastline is eerie. You don't want to really drive it late at night because there's all sorts of weird stuff. It's all bushy and it's gnarly, and I don't recommend it. That's why, you know, big dudes in trucks drive and no single women don't drive. You know, like you guys in the States have got those places too, but
yes, definitely.
It's really eerie and scary and horrible. And when I got to that Coffs Harbour petrol station, that guy told me that he had reports through there a lot.
Really?
You know? Yeah. And I was telling Sarah the same thing, you know, and she was fascinated and wanted to talk to the Coffs Harbour petrol station.
Yeah. So at what point did your dog feel comfortable, or was it still upset until you stopped for gas?
No. She settled. Once we got to Coffs Harbour, she was okay. She was cool, you know. Yep. But it was just the you know, psychiatric treated, you know, woman in the driver's seat that couldn't do anything. I was just really. It took me a long time. I had to stop for coffee but you know, and recovery and tell the story to that dude that was there. But I couldn't drive for a while. But it was a weird night of events, you know, and it was quite a light night because that moon was half phase. So it was quite, you know, bright along the travel. Mm-hmm. But I remember getting in quite late. It was like 5 a.m. by the time I'd reached home. So,
wow.
Yeah, it was
a fascinating experience like that is enough to shake anyone.
No kid. Now, so Sharon, you've had this, I mean, this experience tops a lot of experiences I've heard. It's kind of, it's almost unbelievable to get to see something like that, do stuff like that. But so it kind of sounds like it kind of set you on a journey of really trying to discover like what it was you saw and.
Yeah, it definitely has. And, I don't think it will rest with me until the day I die, until I can at least hear, proof that it's yep, for sure. I need to, it's kind of, it stays with you. You can't forget it. And the more I think that I tell the story, the more the awareness becomes for a lot of naive people who just pleasantly go camping in the forest. We're just taking a backpack. We'll be right. Oh, we don't need flares or anything. We'll be cool. I've just got a pocket knife.
Yeah, a lot of good it's going to do you.
Wait, isn't there, all I can hear is Crocodile Dundee going, you call that a knife? You call that a knife?
Even if you had Crocodile Dundee's knife, the guy would give you a chance to use it. So, yeah.
No kid.
If you pulled that weapon out on that creature, you would be in some serious trouble.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, I
think the best way if you saw a creature like that would be to get on your hands and knees and bow to him like a Buddha.
Now, are you to the point where you'd like to go out and like maybe go out with Sarah and do some researching and see if you can find one?
Sure. Look, I mean, I'd be up for it. I mean, I'm a bit of a camper, but so long as we've got something with a bit of tin around us to protect me, I'm okay. I certainly won't be sleeping in a sling like Dean and Buck do.
Oh, the guy! Oh gosh.
They sleep in like these slings, and I'm like, I don't know whether I could do that, guys.
No, because you've seen it. You've seen it right close. You've seen what it can do. And you know that
I don't think all creatures, all of them are the same, really, guys. I think they're from different colonies, and I think every encounter with every creature will be different, and every creature, like us as human beings, will have a different personality, will have a different torment, will be of a different age. If you cross a mother and her child, God help you.
Well, I agree with you. I think these things are a lot more intelligent than than we give them credit for.
Oh, absolutely. And you got to think they are, is it bisapien? Well, they're like us, right? So they have our intelligence, but they have wild intelligence and much smarter than us, We're really dumb when we fossick through the woods, They can hear us coming the moment we shut the car door,
Oh, they probably can smell us coming. They probably have. I'm sure.
Absolutely. And they definitely have different senses and different powers, abilities, all sorts of things that we definitely do not have.
Yep.
I mean, or we haven't tuned into that survival mode, I don't really know the answers, but I know that they've been here before us, that's for sure. And before first settlement, before Indigenous, way before. We're talking dinosaur era. I'd say that they've been here since.
Yeah.
I can't. And here's the other thing is so you have these creatures in Australia, and we have the similar things over here. Okay. How are we having the same the reports of the same animals, same type of creatures,
Well, they obviously were here on our planet.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yep. And that's my point. Is it goes back to you saying they've been here a lot longer than anything else.
Oh yeah.
They were probably here before the continents started breaking away, and
they're communicating with unidentified beings. And they have been communicating with those unidentified beings probably for many years and know how to communicate,
Well, and that's something else I kind of wanted to ask you. You said it looked back at you and you guys kind of made eye contact, yes?
Yeah, definitely made eye contact.
Did you have was there like an inner voice speaking because a lot of people say they hear some of the mind speak.
Yeah.
Okay.
A voice in their head.
A voice in their head. And I kind of wondered if you have that eye to eye, looking at each other, that connection, was there anything did something flash in your mind that, that you maybe weren't thinking on your own that he was putting there?
No.
Or did you just get a feeling did you get like a certain feeling or anything from it?
No, I really didn't. I got a feeling that when he was in front of me and we actually got the contact and he was just, I was like, I must have been like mouth open, eyes wide, looking underneath my rear vision mirror. And I think I just had the look of wow on my face, like, oh my God. And maybe, he just, I don't know, there was no feeling that he was going, yeah, look at me, I'm pretty good, aren't I? None of that going on, and it was just like, he just sort of looked with blankness, really. I saw his, probably his front 4 upper lateral teeth as he sort of lifted his top lip a bit at me, but it was like almost like a smile, but it wasn't a growl. It was a lift of the top lip, almost like a monkey would do if it was smelling or showing off. It would lift the top lip, that kind of thing. Really weird. And then he just sort of bounced away, and I was just like, oh, you're kidding. How do you tell that story, But, yeah, wow. But I feel really blessed that I got to experience it as I look back on it. As much as it was a very scary experience, I just feel blessed that, I got to see something so incredibly rare, really.
Yes.
Well, and I really do hope that you get to at some point say to your daughter, "See, I told you." We
often have that. We have that discussion, but she said, she just said to me when I told her that you guys were coming on board with a story, she just said to me, "When is this going to be over?" And I said, "When I prove it." She's probably listening. She'll listen to this and she'll go, "Oh,
You know
I can't
what?
believe you mentioned me, Mum."
We still love her. Tell her that just because she doesn't believe in the Yowie still believes in her.
There you
go. That's
right.
Well, Sharon, I am so glad that you came on to tell us this. I mean, this was a great. This experience is so fascinating for sure. Jason. I'm sure you agree.
This is one of the best experiences I've ever heard. This is gold. This is it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm envious I'm envious. I wish I could have experienced that too.
Yeah. So where do you guys get your reports from?
Oh, we get them from all over. I mean, people, people reach out we're in Ohio.
Okay.
And we've gotten quite a few people who have figured out that we're in Ohio and will say, "Hey, I want to tell you this story." And, we get a lot from Pennsylvania.
Yep.
We've got some from West Virginia and stuff. And we're all those states touch each other.
Sure.
Of course, there's a lot of really good shows that are just Bigfoot shows.
Yeah.
Like Sasquatch Chronicles and Sasquatch Odyssey and so a lot of people reach out to them because we do other stuff too. We talk about ghosts and UFOs and stuff. So we
had a few of those too, guys. Hey, wow, Australia's full of those kind of things too.
Full of UFOs.
I'd love to hear it. If there's any people from Australia that would like to come on the show and talk about something that's unexplained, well, we reach out to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we get a lot of just paranormal stuff, and we love to hear it. I mean, to me, the eyewitness accounts are the best people to have on. I mean, we love having people who are experts and that write books and are on TV shows and stuff like that. And we have quite a few, but I know our listeners really love the people who have had the experiences and they want to hear firsthand from those people. Because I think there's a lot of people out there that have experienced stuff and they just don't.
They don't feel comfortable sharing it.
Yeah. Like your own daughter. Like,
Yeah.
your own daughter won't say. I mean, we had a father and son on a couple months ago where the father had a sighting and his son just gave him a bunch of crap about it. Whatever, Dad. Guess what? Then the son has a sighting. And
great. I love that.
So we had them both on, and it was so awesome. The dad's like, my boy calls me up and says, well, I think I saw one of those. And he goes, saw what? He goes, I was going to make him say what he saw. I wasn't going to let him off the hook.
He made him eat crow.
I'm going to make him say it. And
it's funny you guys say that, because it triggers a thought in my head, because I've worked in special effects for 17 years. And one of my shows that I worked on was a show called The Lost World. And in that show, I was the prosthetics effects makeup artist, and I had to reproduce 36 cannibal cavemen. And in that show, every one of those creatures looked like what I encountered in 2008. And it was incredible, because I did the show in 1999. So you can imagine it was a really weird connection going on there. And I don't know what that means.
Oh, yeah. Like, well, I wonder
I don't know what that is.
I wonder if maybe you took that experience and that almost made it look more like that.
Well, when I often told the story to my partner at the time, and when we were doing the show, I said to him, don't you think this is a bit uncanny that I'm doing a show like this? And he just went, well, the universe puts you into things where you should be. It was really bizarre. And since then, I've done probably about 36 creatures that looked exactly like what I experienced.
Wow.
Now, is it?
It was crazy. I mean, I don't even know if that's another story all on its own, but, wow.
Is that what they call synchronicity?
I don't know.
That is exactly what synchronicity is.
Like you keep getting put in the situation with what you can't get away from. So.
Can't get away from it. Yep, absolutely couldn't. And then about 3 years later, I was contacted by some musos, and they wanted me to do an orangutan mask. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Oh, God.
Yeah, so there I was doing another one all over again. And I was like, wow, no wonder I'm really good at doing these now.
Yeah, no kid. Yeah, no kid. Oh, boy.
It was crazy. Yeah, but you just wouldn't know it. And I told that story to Tony Healy, and he just went, wow, there could be something visual going on there in the universe that's connecting you with them.
Yep. Definitely.
In another portal, that we don't know about.
Now, does that excite you or frighten you?
Oh, look,
I
bring
find
it on.
it exciting myself.
Bring it on.
Well, Jason, I'm not asking you.
That's true.
I know.
Bring it on, I say.
Wow.
Life's pretty boring, isn't it? So why not have this in it?
Well, my life is pretty boring compared to yours. Yes, I will say that. That is, wow, that is great. Yeah, Sharon, I'm glad that I'm glad you came on to share that, because
yes, absolutely.
We really
appreciate it.
Yes.
Oh, no worries, guys. It's great fun. I love having a story. So anytime.
Well, the next sighting you have, we'll be glad to have you back on, and not just for some movie that you did. I want to see that you and Sarah and your daughter went out and got some real evidence, got some more real evidence to. I want to hear.
Camped in some spots like the Kimberleys, and they haven't been sighted as much out there, but because it's very dry out there. But they're certainly out there. But I think you've got to be open to those kind of things too sometimes, and they kind of find you.
I do agree. I do agree with that.
Spirits and paranormal behaviour.
Yes.
If you're open to that, you open a doorway where there's some connection there.
You are absolutely right. Absolutely.
I do agree with that 100%. And so I do want to schedule the show where your daughter comes on and admits that she saw one. So let's make that happen. Let's make that happen.
Good luck with that, guys.
Well, Sharon, we appreciate you coming on, and thank you so much for spending your morning with us.
Yes. Oh, look, I've had a great time. Thanks, Shane. Thanks, Jason. And thank you to the States. What a great place, hey?
Yes, it is. It doesn't sound like it's as much fun as Australia is right now.
Oh,
I can't wait to visit Australia. I can't wait.
Yeah, well, you better bring yourself something, to protect yourself.
Oh, yeah, you have to. Yeah, I heard it's pretty wild. Pretty wild there. A lot of things that can kill you there.
Oh, God. And we're entering into the hot season now, so spring and everything's creeping out. It's not good.
Oh, man.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Well, stay safe, and
Thanks,
we'll talk to you soon, all right?
All right.
Okay.
Yep. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of the From the Shadows podcast. Until next time, never shy away from the darkness or what may be lurking in the shadows. We are out.